evening, everyone. I'm Corinne Lemadou with the Colbert Report special feature, the Lemadou Review. Today's feature focuses on U.S. foreign relations, and to help us take a better look at the concept, we have with us Cormac Steinbach, Doctor of Foreign Relations and International Business.
Hello.
Hello, Dr. Steinbach. So my first question is in regards to the national debt, which is the concern that has been addressed frequently. So, Doctor, do you feel that we as Americans should fear the national debt?
Should we fear national debt? We absolutely should. Consumerism and lazy capitalism destroyed the foundation of America, entrepreneurship. And now we're stuck with a bunch of promises that we cannot keep.
So what you're saying is that we consistently spend money on things that we don't need with money that we don't have.
Absolutely. The American mindset created such a sense of entitlement that the U.S. has seemed to forget their place in the world market. That to survive, consumption must be met with production. Job outsourcing and the excessive purchasing of foreign goods has left the U.S. deeply in the red.
Has this excessive spending been beneficial at all to the U.S., perhaps in regards to foreign relations? I guess my question here is, have we made any beneficial relationships with countries through trade?
If you're asking about our situation regarding international alliances, they're not very good at the moment. I think our best advantages is our current place in the UN as one of the top 5 main powers. Other than that, we aren't doing so hot, which isn't too surprising. Personally, I'm an isolationist.
So what you're saying is that we should completely avoid alliances with other countries? How come?
I don't mean that we shouldn't have good relations with other countries. I think the best way to illustrate this would be to reference our first president, George Washington. Washington believed that permanent alliances would lead to our being dragged into the wars. And it hasn't proven true. It has proven true, actually. Time and time again. Personally, I believe we should return to a standpoint of neutrality. The only benefit might be the fact that the wars we were dragged into helped our economy.
I don't follow.
If you have any background in microeconomics, you might find that war and military spending increases our economic prosperity. The governmental spending leads to a rightward shift in aggregate demand and increases GDP, which is gross domestic product, and which is very conducive to establishing ourselves economically as a nation.
So what you're saying is that it's a good thing that we're essentially war profiteers?
If we're being honest, it's a very American way of doing things.
It's true. The U.S. does have a history of taking whatever they can and running with it. Excuse me. Even from the beginning, we've been very possessive. Are you familiar with the Monroe Doctrine?
Yes, the policy written by John Quincy Adams, where he basically said, "We stole this land and no one else can steal it."
Exactly. It was one of the first times we defined our territory as Americans, but it was mostly self-defense, just trying to protect what we felt was ours. With the expansion of European imperialism, it was highly necessary to set some ground rules, stating that they claimed the land they were on it, and it was no longer open for colonization from outside countries.
I don't think it was intended to be a policy for American imperialism originally, though. Even though the U.S. founders had some pretty grandiose ideas, American imperialism didn't really play in it until sometime later, after the Industrial Revolution that made the U.S. the powerhouse that we are today.
The powerhouse that still seems to think that we should spread their mentality to the rest of the world. How do you feel about that?
The U.S. might think that they have this mission to expand freedom and democracy, but the methods that they use and the frequent intervention into places they are not welcome completely undermines any philanthropic intentions. If they were less aggressive and in their desire to spend democracy, they may be on the right track. Unfortunately, they can't see how they are harming.
So what you're saying is their actions can be compared to the metaphor of a neighbor asking for a favor.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. A woman approaches her neighbor asking for an egg to bake a cake. Not only does the neighbor provide the egg, they proceed to enter their house and bake the entire cake, completely disregarding how the neighbor may have originally wanted the cake to be baked. Essentially, the idea of American responsibility to spread democracy is just the leftovers of manifest destiny, and the belief that as Americans they know better than others and will give them the help whether they like it or not.
Very true.
All right, that's all the time we have. A special thank you to Dr. Steinbach, and now back to the Colbert Report.